and welcome back to day 2 of the GradFutures Forum. This 2022 forum is our third annual GradFutures Forum, and we're delighted to welcome you back to this session on vital networks, mentoring and graduate student success. Before I begin introducing our panelists and getting into the conversation, I want to quickly remind you that you can send us comments, questions, suggestions by going to our website, gradfutures.princeton.edu/forum. From there, you can navigate to our virtual page where you can find this live stream, but also you can also find ways to answer poll questions and submit comments, questions, and so on for our panelists. You can also submit questions using the hashtag GradFuturesForum, all one word. Please also feel free to email us at gradfutures@princeton.edu if that's more convenient for you. Welcome again. We're delighted to have this our third year, once again, a global audience joining us. A special welcome to our Princeton graduate students, and please do attend as many of the events throughout the week as you can, but know that we are recording and we'll edit and put them up on our website should you miss anything. With that, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this important panel on mentorship. Mentoring and graduate student success is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. In fact, I've written about it quite extensively in books and in online periodicals. But I'm not here to talk about my perspectives on mentorship, because we have 6 panelists, no fewer than 6 panelists, each with a different perspective on mentorship. I'm going to bring each of them in turn up for their first question, and as I do so, I'll give a brief introduction. The further bios and details about our panelists can be found on our website. Again, gradfutures.princeton.edu/forum, where you can find information about all of the panelists presenting at the GradFutures Forum. It's quite a few. You'll have to sift through 50 or so profiles, but we're really delighted with the 6 panelists that'll be joining us today. Begin by bringing up Drew Harker onto the screen. Welcome, Drew. Drew, as you can see from the star in front of his class year, is a graduate alum of Princeton, class of '81 from the School of Public and International Affairs. After he graduated from SPIA in 1981, Drew served on the professional staff of the Senate Armed Services Committee and went on to become a partner at Arnold and Porter in DC. For our panel today, it's important for you to know that Drew Harker's legacy at Princeton also includes the establishment of a mentorship program in concert with GradFutures. Drew was the organizing principle and force behind our push to establish initially an in-person mentorship relationship in DC, and now a mentorship program that has matched over 165 graduate students to graduate alumni mentors in 2022. Drew, it's a real honor to have you at the GradFutures Forum again. Last year, you won one of the inaugural Clio Hall Awards in recognition of your work, which has only gone on to more and more success now in the third year of the GradFutures Mentorship Program. My question to you is, what makes mentorship so near and dear to your heart, and what made you initially establish mentorship programs at UCSD and then at Princeton?
Thanks very much, James. It's an honor to be here, and it's a great privilege to work with you and Ava and others within the graduate school about mentorship and bringing my dream, which frankly I didn't anticipate 165 students at this point. But it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be here. It's interesting. My inspiration came from a number of different things. One, in 2017, 2018, I was beginning to think about retirement from the practice of law, and it gave me some perspective on how I had been, to the extent I had achieved any success, how I had achieved that success. And I realized that how important people along the way going back to when I was an undergraduate, but then through graduate school and through my early and later career, how important mentorship was to me, how important mentors were to my development. And in fact, I wouldn't have achieved whatever success I achieved without the benefit of a number of people who helped me along the way, frankly, when they didn't have to. There was no obligation to do so. We didn't really think much about mentorship. I don't think that term was used very much, through my early career. Frankly, I was also contemplating in that time period the job market that I would have faced if I was graduating at that time from the public policy school. In 1981, I was graduating, and Ronald Reagan was coming in and talking about downsizing the government, much like President Trump was talking in 2016 about downsizing the government. So I thought that students who were considering a career in public service or otherwise would benefit greatly by having someone or some people who they could network with, talk to, and help through a very difficult time. So that was sort of the inspiration. And I was very fortunate that both UCSD and Princeton, the Graduate School of Princeton, embraced wholeheartedly the idea that mentorship was something that could be done and to help and benefit graduate students.
That's really wonderful, Drew. We got to meet in the inaugural instance of the program at DC, and as I recall, one of your mentors' children just happened to be at that event, and you were able to tell her how deeply meaningful her father's mentorship had been to you. And I think that, honestly, for me, I've seen you react to letters of thanks or videos that our students submit. I think it's the impact on the particular graduate students, right? So when you hear the number 165, I think you're here, or 165, I think you're hearing those individuals. It's not a data point. And so really thankful for all you've done. And I'm going to bring one of those 165 up right now. Bianca Dyer is someone who has benefited from the GradFutures mentorship program and is a current mentee in the program, as well as a professional development associate working with our team. Bianca, thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. Let me give you can you give a little bit about your background and what drew you to the mentorship program?
Hello. Yeah, I definitely have appreciated all of the GradFutures resources, and I'm excited to share about my experience with the mentorship program this year. I'm a second year in the PhD program in chemical engineering here at Princeton, and I don't have anyone in my family who's pursued a PhD, and truthfully barely knew what I signed up for when I came here. And I remember when I was filling out the questionnaire to see kind of what I wanted in a mentor, what I wanted to get out of it, I really felt like I could kind of put in anything I wanted. I felt like it was a really good survey for me to also figure out what I want. And like, as I did it, I realized I had no idea. I was super open. And so I submitted my survey that way. And I was matched with Ken, another one of our panelists you'll hear from today. And we decided that he would help me explore career options that I could pursue in like quite a systematic way that I've really appreciated. We discussed how my internships and research experience were like quite focused at universities and federal organizations. And so he's really helped me learn about other options so that I don't just get stuck doing what I know. So he's helped me learn more about consulting, venture capital, industry at various size companies. And I really appreciated the opportunity to learn about things I didn't know before. So it's been quite informative. And I also find it really motivating because starting a PhD, knowing that it was going to be something really educational and gratifying in that way and quite mentally demanding, it's exciting to see the different job opportunities that are going to come out of it. So I'm really grateful to Ken and the mentorship opportunity that GradFutures put together. I definitely think that mentorship generally is great, and specifically the way that GradFutures runs it, I think is really great. And it's also not super regimented. So Ken and I can make it whatever we want. We don't have to fill out a ton of forms and stuff that GradFutures cares about. So I think the flexibility is nice to get out of it whatever I want.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bianca. And thanks for all your hard work in helping us to organize this forum. I should mention you were up bright and early Monday morning to help us kick off the first day of the forum, which was a hybrid format, new for us this year. So just your leadership and the ways you pass along what you're learning from your relationship with Ken is really inspiring. I'm really thankful, and watching you kind of build your mentorship network here at Princeton is really inspiring to me. And so thanks for taking a moment to share that. And we'll bring you back on with the panelists in just a moment. But let me turn to the aforementioned Ken Noonan. Ken Noonan, as his star indicates, is a graduate alum of Princeton, class of 72, grad class of 72. He's the CEO of Lightstone Singapore. And Ken, really thank you for taking the time to join us. From where in the world are you joining us, by the way, Ken?
I happen to be in my home in Arizona.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us. So obviously, Bianca shared a little bit about how the program has benefited her. You're one of her mentors through this program. What is giving back as a graduate alumni? What is that, as a mentor, what has that meant to you?
Yeah, I gave some thought to that a few hours ago. Number one, there is a giving back element. Number two, my time at Princeton was pretty important to me. So staying involved with Princeton's graduate students and Princeton's graduate programs is important to me. And then number three, slightly selfishly, being a venture capitalist in the life sciences space, we hire PhDs, frankly, all the time. Currently, I have 5 life science PhDs reporting to me. And so staying in touch with the soon-to-be PhDs helps me better understand what it is that Princeton PhDs are looking for, and how we might, we being Lightstone Ventures, might shape our employment programs to be in sync with what the graduate students of 22, 23, 24 are actually looking for in future jobs.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I like that idea of it being kind of almost an exploratory mission on your part to have an ear to the ground to the wishes, desires, inclinations of current graduate students. And I, as somebody who my ears perked up when you said we hire PhDs all the time. So I hope PhDs and graduate students on this stream are paying attention, because yeah, the value of the PhD is one of the topics of conversation this week in the worlds beyond the academy. So thanks, Ken, for sharing that. And I think we're so grateful. You don't make 165 good matches without 160 or so graduate alum participants who lean into the program, who give up their time in ways that are often unseen. So you're kind of one of our panelists who are representing all of the graduate alum mentors out there. And really, on behalf of Bianca and all the graduate students, thank you. And we'll be bringing you back shortly as when we return as a panel. So another representative of the graduate alums who are mentoring our graduate students here at Princeton is Joe Tilka. Joe Tilka, again, as his star indicates, is graduate class of 2019, and also has been on campus this week. Joe will be joining us later this week, in fact, in person again. Joe, you've given back a lot as a mentor. Some might say you've jumped into mentorship with both feet. Obviously, class of 19, not very far removed from your own PhD experience. And from what I hear, you mentor 4 current graduate students. Is that correct? How's it been mentoring a range of Princeton graduate students? How's it been for you?
Yeah. Overall, really, really good. And I mean, I really enjoy it. I mean, that's why I'm continuing to do it. I started last year. I guess, in like the pilot year of this mentoring program with just one grad student, and we're still in touch. That's now one of my 4 current mentees. Of course, it was a different experience with only one mentee. I could, dedicate a lot more time to that one student. And now with 4, I have to obviously budget my time a little bit differently. And they also obviously have lots of other things to do. So it's always a challenge, I think, just to find the time and make the time to really sit down and talk through how things are going, right? I think it gives the students a good opportunity to reflect on how their grad school experience is going, things with their advisor, things with their research, balancing coursework and thesis work, or this whole work-life balance idea, which is always tricky in grad school. Anyways, it's been a really great experience for me. I get to learn a lot from the grad students. It helps me to reflect on my own experience in grad school, try to distill some useful information there and pass something along. And it also helps me think about how I want to approach my mentors, because of course I'm also wearing sitting on the other side in a few relationships. So it's been really helpful for me to get involved with this program, and hopefully pass on some useful information, or at least commiserate with some grad students on the challenges.
Yeah, I think that's the word commiserate. I'll put it maybe a more positive spin on it, but you have the ability to empathize, and your experiences of a very recent vintage. So I think having a variety of mentors, including mentors who have recently gone through a similar experience, the further we get away from our PhDs, the more it becomes clouded over with kind of a haze of memory. This is what it was like.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, I think even the people who are still here from your time and the connections, you can plug current graduate students right into those networks. And so it's really wonderful. And also you happen to be local, unlike Ken, who's joining us from Arizona, you're local here in Princeton. So there's all kinds of benefits to connecting with a range of different mentors. So, and I think it's a great flex on your part to put your pull-up bar in your background.
No one uses it, but yeah.
No one uses it. Okay, well then you just kind of outed yourself. But really, thanks, Joe. It's been so great to meet you in person at the forum. I'm really looking forward to toasting you on Friday. All right, so our next panelist is Dr. Laura Murray from the McGraw Center for Teaching and Learning. Welcome, Laura. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Laura is the Assistant Director of Learning Programs. And if you are, like me, somebody who is a peripatetic ear around campus and you go to a lot of events, one of the great things and the joys for me has been to hear people recommending that graduate students, both prospective and incoming and early stage and advanced stage, people are saying, go see Laura Murray. And one of the reasons is because of your, I would say, cultivation of mentorship as an area of focus at Princeton through your role at the McGraw Center for Teaching and Learning. But beyond that, even, I think your work on mentorship has really been inspiring to me and to many of us on campus. But more importantly, it's meant a great deal to graduate students. So my question to you is an open-ended one. I want to shift away from the specific mentorship program that GradFutures runs to the topic of how Princeton, and specifically you and your team at McGraw, approach mentorship and the graduate student experience. Can you share a bit about your work?
Sure. And thank you for that lovely intro. I appreciate it. And I'm happy to join everyone today to talk about one of my favorite subjects, mentorship. So a little bit of a background. I'm coming at this, at our conversation today, really from the perspective of supporting grad students. That's my primary job at our Center for Teaching and Learning, to support grad students as learners, as you navigate through graduate school. Mentoring is really at the foundation of graduate education. But I would argue, and I don't think I'm alone in this, that mentoring, save for conversations like the one we're having right now, mentoring is not often given the attention I think that it should in graduate education. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Grad students, for example, aren't usually formally taught how to mentor. So in answer to part of your question, James, one of the things we do related to mentoring at our center is that we now have a course for graduate students to learn how to mentor, knowing that they are currently being mentored by their primary academic advisors and many others and alumni, as some of our panelists are. But one of the things we're trying to do is prepare them to become mentors themselves, knowing that many of them will remain in academia and will be our next generation of faculty members, and also acknowledging that many of them will land in lots of other professional domains, government, nonprofits, NGOs, industry, et cetera. And so personally, I think it's a big miss and a major oversight if we don't do all that we can to prepare students who are going to be leaders in their fields, whether they remain in academia or not. We're not doing our due diligence if we don't really help them to acquire skills and strategies to practice effective mentoring. So one of the things we do is we run a course, actually. Right now, it's open to all interested grad students and postdocs in STEM fields to learn about mentoring, how to do it effectively, ethically, and also to create a space of friendly allies where students can practice these new mentoring skills that they're acquiring. So that's one thing that we do. And then another related program or project is we have a wonderful group of graduate peer coaches. So these are advanced post-generals, doctoral students. So they've completed their coursework, completed their candidacy exams, and do some really in-depth training, and then work one-on-one in private consultations with their peers, with graduate students who are interested in talking with a near peer who might be able to act as a thinking partner with them and help them solve problems related to navigating graduate school. I probably shouldn't use the word problem. Face challenges. And those challenges can be anything from procrastination or perfectionism and dealing with those to learning how to mentor up and work with one's current advisor. So mentoring is really at the core of many, if not all, of these conversations. So I'll stop there.
Wonderful. And I know you could continue, and we'll have some time as the panel unfolds. We already have a question from one of our panelists. I'll just anonymize for the sake of keeping this person's question anonymous. But Joe T, class of 19, asks, can alumni also attend Laura's mentoring course? Smiley face.
We would love to have you. Actually, we should talk about that. It would be great.
That'd be a really great idea. So wonderful. Well, thank you, Laura. That was really, really great. Our last panelist, last but not least, is Michelle Burke. Welcome to the panel, Michelle.
Thank you, James.
Michelle joins us from Mentor Collective, which is the platform we use and the team we use to make these connections between graduate students and graduate alumni. Welcome, Michelle. And can you share a bit about the process that Mentor Collective, in concert with the GradFutures team, uses to connect graduate students with graduate alums?
Certainly. And our platform at Mentor Collective, we were founded in 2014. And since that time, we work with more than 160 educational partners in the US and Canada to help students find the right relationships at the right time. And graduate mentorship is so important. And we're such a proud partner of Princeton GradFutures to help, as you've heard, the kind of legacy of how the program was formulated and how we're now working with you. We work with our forward-thinking universities to help use research, services, and technology to make the most of mentorship. So with the mentorship program with GradFutures, we work very closely with our partners, James and the other team at Princeton, to determine who the mentees should be. So we go through a heavy recruiting process of mentees. So students who are graduate students at Princeton have the opportunity to ask for a mentor. And then we also go through a heavy recruiting process with alumni to find the right alumni match for the graduate students in the program. We use a holistic matching process. We ask our mentors and mentees to take a matching survey, and we work on several different data points that people would have in common. But at Princeton GradFutures, it's definitely important for the mentees to find someone who is professionally engaged the way that they would like to be once they get through their graduate studies, and also someone who can give great advice and support for students as they're completing their research and service activities as a graduate student. So that process involves regular meetings with the Mentor Collective team and the GradFutures team, very intense, taking a look at each applicant for the mentor and mentee programs to make sure that we're making an authentic match that will last for a long time. And the other thing that Mentor Collective does for our partners is we manage the impact of those programs. So through the course of, especially that first academic year, we're taking a look at the number of conversations, we're taking a look at trends in conversations, the kinds of things that mentors and mentees are discussing. And mentors can also let the GradFutures team know if a mentee could use some extra support, maybe for academic struggles or looking for an internship or some research questions, but helping those students find that support from not just the mentor, but from the whole support structure on a campus. And that's how we help our partners work. And thanks for including us today, James.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. Couldn't leave you out. And Mentor Collective was on hand yesterday in person to sign up new mentees to the program and also to conduct some on-site polling and surveying about how graduate students are finding the experience. And so really value the partnership, and give a shout out to your entire team at Mentor Collective for working with us to really tailor the program to Princeton grad students and graduate alumni. I think really excited to further this partnership. And I think we just saw 4 new matches made last week. We're going to continue to grow the program, and really, really thank you for your time here today. So we've gone through now 6 panelists, if you've been counting, and I'd like to welcome all 6 panelists back to the screen. We'll all be in a Brady Bunch happy family group. Our wonderful producer from Digimentors, who is producing the GradFutures Forum now for the 3rd year in a row, Neil, thanks so much for all you do. And welcome back, panelists. Thanks for, again, taking the time. As Laura was speaking, I was really struck by the fact that, like teaching in graduate education, mentorship is one of those things we often take for granted. Mm-hmm. I want to ask each of you in turn, feel free to chime in, but I'm going to go around the panel and ask, what are some examples of initiatives or best practices you think help prepare graduate students to benefit from mentorship? And while I give you a moment or two to reflect on that, so we're thinking about what's worked out there in the world, best practices, initiatives that help prepare graduate students to benefit from mentorship. I want to share a few props. So this book right here is a book we give to all of our university administrative fellowship mentors. And it's kind of written in the style of Strunk & White's Essentials, the Elements of Style, with very short chapters. The chapter that I always point people to is chapter 6, which is affirm, 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 and then affirm some more. And the quote is, if you can only do one thing as a mentor, there, Laura has it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. UIS mentor. If you can only do one thing as a mentor, affirm your mentees. And thinking back to my own graduate student experience, especially when you get to the level of the PhD, affirmation can be one of the things that mentors can leave off because of time. You're like, well, you're a PhD student, you're intelligent, I don't have to tell you, you're doing well. my feedback is designed to make you better. It's not designed to make you feel good about yourself. So I think affirmation and telling people what they're doing well is one of the things we often leave off the table as mentors. And so I would say recommending a book like this is one way we can start being actively reflecting on our own mentorship practices. We've been giving away copies of this book, published by Princeton University Press, A Field Guide to Graduate School by Jessica McCrory-Calarco, who has spoken to Princeton graduate students. This is, I think, a wonderful overview of how to navigate graduate school from the perspective often of a first-gen student. And oftentimes the things that go unsaid by mentors need to be supplemented by guides like that one. I'll give a shameless plug to this book, Reimagined PhD. We're having a panel about the Reimagined PhD at the forum this Friday. And in this book, I write a chapter with my mentor, Leonard Casuto, about rethinking the mentor-mentee relationship in graduate school, which is often about the one-to-one dyad of mentor, graduate, faculty mentor, and graduate student. There's a really great resource I would encourage you all to Google out there, which is the National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity. Has a mentoring map. If you Google it, it's one of the results that comes back, a mentoring map with the graduate student or early stage faculty in the center, and then all of the different nodes and networks of support you need to be successful as you navigate either graduate school or early stages on the tenure track. I think it's really important for all of us to think about the ways our mentorships map in different ways and for different purposes. But I hope my little preamble there has given you time to think about some best practices. So I'm gonna shoot it over to Laura, since she played along with my prop. And Laura, do you have best practices or an example you can share, not only with our audience here at Princeton, but with people who are tuning in all over the country and indeed the globe?
Sure. And I have to say, I do love this book. I'm not just holding it up for fun. It's a great book. The Elements of Mentoring. So along the affirm lines, I would add, so I'm a psychologist by training. And one of my favorite psychologists, Carl Rogers, he was a humanistic psychologist, became famous for many reasons, one of which is his idea of what's called unconditional positive regard. So the idea is accepting someone for who they are, no matter what. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to agree with what they're saying or doing. And it also doesn't mean that you don't necessarily want to give them feedback to make their work even better and to help them and scaffold them. But the idea is that you're accepting them as a person of value, regardless of their work. And so I like to sort of shine a spotlight on that, because I think as mentors, especially in academia, and James, this was to your point as well, faculty members are often focusing on what could be improved, or, what didn't work, what could be better. And that's important, of course, but it's always, I think, this is my disciplinary bias, more important at the end of the day to recognize someone's humanity and to support them and accept them no matter what. So that's kind of the broad headline. And then a more specific, concrete recommendation is, as a mentor, especially, but also as a mentee, make your expectations for the mentoring relationship explicit and specific as much as possible. And one way that you can think about doing that is, as a team or a dyad, co-create, co-construct some sort of a mentoring agreement at the beginning of your burgeoning relationship. You can always go back and revise it, but the idea is you have this working document so you at least know where you started and you're sort of on the same page in terms of what you'd both like to get out of this reciprocal relationship going forward.
That's wonderful. And unconditional positive regard, is that the phrase?
Yes,
Wonderful.
yes.
I'm going to steal that. I'll attribute it back to you and back to Ken Rogers, but thank you for that.
Carl Rogers, yes.
Carl Rogers, thank you. I wonder, Bianca, you kind of mentioned early on in your description of your mentor-mentee relationship with Ken that you had established very particular a framework. This is what we're going to focus on. And then you pursued it in a very methodical way, I think is the word you used to describe that. Anything more you want to chime in on that? I know you have some background noise. You're joining us from
Yeah, it's better now.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was, I wouldn't say we had a contract, but I would say we had emails and clarity. And so I'm definitely on board with like having clear goals is really beneficial, and it doesn't have to be super formal. Like I would say I didn't perceive it like a contract, but now looking back, I'm like, oh, I think that's relevant to what Laura was mentioning. So having clear goals, whether it's an email chain that kind of has notes, or if we're in a virtual meeting, type in the Zoom chat, are we on the same page of understanding what we just discussed? Yeah, I think it was really cool. And that's like, I just love, like, anyone can make it what you want. Like, whether it's a super formal contract that's a page or two long or 5-bullet summary of a meeting. I think it was really helpful for direction and motivation, and it's gone really well. Like, we haven't looked back and thought, or at least I haven't, I haven't looked back and thought, I wish we had more direction, or we lost sight of this goal or something. So I think it was also nice that Ken steered us helped us like make sure they were reasonable goals and focuses. So that's gone really well.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, keeping the balance between the expectations on both sides, so there's not this unspoken assumption about what you are expecting from the other person. Because I think using the word relationship to describe it is a key thing, right? Not just seeing this as some kind of information dump. It is a back and forth. It is an exchange. Both of you and Ken have spoken to that in your time on the panel already. Anyone else want to chime in with a best resource or a practice for helping graduate students best take advantage of mentorship during graduate school?
I want to add something a little bit.
Oh, sure, Bianca, go ahead.
Also, with my mentorship from Ken, he's been putting me in touch with people more specific to the job opportunities that we're exploring. So I strongly recommend to other people being mentored to like make sure that you're following up on these things. Like, it's really awkward if I'm meeting with Ken and he's like, oh, I gave you this person's email. Did you follow up with them? And my response is, oh, oops, no. So like, respect people and their time. And it can be a bit simple, but also it can be easy to overlook an email. But I think I strongly recommend like really prioritizing connections that your specific mentor can help you establish with other people.
Yeah, that act of generosity in opening up your network, but it's also, I think, one of the elements of good mentoring is recognizing you can't do it all. And I think part of the code that all physicians take, the idea is that they will not be afraid to say when they do not know. And mentorship should begin with the fact that one of the greatest things you can do as a mentor is connect your mentee with your network. And as they kind of earn certain levels of connection, you make those connections. You don't hold back. So yeah, that's a wonderful point. I think, Joe, you're going to hop in.
Yeah, unless Drew wanted to go first.
I was just going to say, I think that any program that is nimble and flexible and can change as the environment changes is going to be better than a program that's not. I mean, that's probably a truism, but I think it's something that we shouldn't lose sight of. And from a best practices standpoint, something that I believe very, very deeply about is that once the relationship is created, it's important to stay in touch with both the mentors and the mentees. And I've enjoyed so much working with the Princeton program because that's one of your perspectives as well. And so I've really enjoyed reaching out to the mentors, the alum, and the students to make sure that everyone is on the same page to get feedback from both students and alum as to what we could do better. It's a good program, but it's not to say it couldn't be improved. And I like so much that Princeton is dedicated to that same principle. And we've changed the program over the years as we've gotten feedback. And to me, that's a hallmark of a great, flexible, nimble program.
Wonderful. Michelle, I wonder if you might want to also chime in here, because I know part of your work at Mentor Collective is Princeton is one instance of a relationship that you would manage. And I know you've done some work in connecting us and others with really great research on this front. So I have a stack of peer-reviewed articles that have emerged out of conversations we've had. You've given me names of people studying this as a topic. As Laura noted, it's less studied and less focused upon than other areas. So it's important that we glean these resources as we think about best practices on a more global scale, and building out a program that connects mentors and mentees. So what has been some of the findings of the Mentor Collective team in running these programs specifically for graduate students?
Well, one thing that we found from participants in all of our programs across the life cycle of a student from undergraduate through graduate is at least 3 conversations leads to student success. So when we think about being a mentor and how many touch points you have between a mentor and mentee, that when there's at least 3 conversations in the programs that we have facilitated, we know that that leads to a stronger level of student sense of belonging, student success, and self-efficacy with students who are trying to achieve a graduate degree or an undergraduate degree. So just understanding that communication needs to keep happening. I love to hear all the best practices from the rest of the panel, because I wholeheartedly agree. Affirming, for mentors to play that role in affirming their mentees, from the mentee to say, yes, it's very important to communicate. So important. One thing that we have learned, especially in the past 2 years with the pandemic, is that level of communication may have dropped off a little bit, and everybody gets a little tied up in what's going on in their lives, and they forget, oh, I have a mentor or I have a mentee that I need to connect with. So keeping those connections going, even just very simple. There's a recent study out of Cal State Fullerton about text messaging from a supportive person in a college student's life makes a difference in that mental health and sense of just keeping up with things. So a mentor may be a little frustrated if they send a message to their mentee and don't hear back right away. It still makes a difference. So mentors, keep going, keep affirming, keep sending those positive messages to your mentees, no matter what level they are, because it is so important and it does make a difference. But one thing that we've done at Mentor Collective is look at different ways that we can train mentees to become a better mentee, to learn how to grow that network, to learn how to take full advantage of the connections that a mentor is helping to provide, and being able to do that throughout the life of the relationship. And I guess my next piece of advice would be, you're going to have mentors at different phases in your life and career, and appreciate everyone that you have, and then go on and try to be a great mentor yourself.
Yeah, really, really key to understand that mentorship is always this contextual, bounded experience that in some cases, you can the relationship can flip on its axis entirely. So if the conversation shifts into something that is the domain of expertise of the mentee, and recognizing that it's not such an inverted power relation all the time. Really, really great advice. I want to remind our guests, our attendees who are viewing this live stream, to please feel free to drop us a question either in social media, via email, or via the Slido app that's embedded on our gradfutures.princeton.edu/forum website. We have a question that's come in, and it's for Ken. Let me read the question. You can pop it up on the screen, Neil, if that's okay. It's a question from Peter for Ken. What mistakes do you see graduate students and PhDs making as they position themselves to seek jobs outside of academia? And maybe I'll do a little editorial tweaking here and say, and what do you see them doing well? Mistakes, and what do you see them doing well?
Yeah, I was going to go to the same place, James. It's not necessarily mistakes. I find probably two things. One, the average PhD underestimates the number of different opportunities that they should be considering. So in my work of sciences, the opportunities range from joining a pharmaceutical company through becoming an IP attorney to doing what I did, become a consultant, to become a venture capitalist. So first of all, throw your net very widely, because PhDs are more attractive to a variety of different industries than I think the average PhD realizes. Secondly, do your homework. Don't come to me looking for a job in venture without understanding what venture capital is, and the fact that I only do life sciences should be top of mind. I frequently get, through LinkedIn, requests from folks with no life sciences backgrounds who want to be considered for employment at a firm that only does life science. So do your homework. Don't waste your time, or frankly, my time.
Yeah, that's really great, Ken. I think use the research skills and chops that you have. One of the analogies I like to use, and I'll test it out here on this crew. If I get some nods, I'll keep using it. Is to say you don't have to be on the freeway alongside the mentor or the prospective person you're trying to connect with, but you shouldn't also, the car shouldn't be in the garage, and the key shouldn't be in your pocket. In other words, you should be getting towards the on-ramp so that they can see you've Googled at least the basics. You've read all the information on the website. So you come across not as a supplicant or somebody who just says, I want you to do the work of telling me what I could have found out by myself, but rather, I've looked at what I can find out by myself, and here's where I have questions, or what I can't yet see from your website is where you're going next, that sort of thing. Okay, I'm seeing a few nods. Ken's giving me a little affirmation. I'll keep using it because I think it's important for graduate students to recognize that, yes, it's good to ask questions, but it's better to ask the right questions at the right time to the right person. So really, really appreciate that guidance. So, Joe, I did skip over you. I went from Drew to Michelle, and I skipped over you before. Did you want to touch on the kind of best practices question again?
Sure.
Apologies for skipping over you.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I was kind of observing how the conversation was going and reflecting on something. So I guess I think like what Laura and Bianca were kind of talking about is the more proactive approach towards being a mentee, right? That you should come in with a plan, right? Define some sort of guidelines, what you want to achieve with your mentor. And I think we all know that that's like the ideal thing to do. I think it's also okay and pretty natural that there's a more reactive approach or like a component of that to the mentoring relationship. And so what I guess I try to encourage my mentees to do is just like reflect on how things are going, right? Of course, you can use our mentoring sessions to kind of talk through how things are going. But if you have some time to, just like, again, like reflect on how things are going, right? What were you thinking about or feeling in your last meeting with your advisor? Or like, are you feeling stressed because you have so many like problem sets or whatever? Like, just reflect on the situation and then, share that with your mentor. They may not have any answers for you or any like silver bullet solutions, but I think it becomes a more engaging and like a more productive, I think, relationship if we can actually talk through how things are going for you, because at least then I can share my experience. Oh yeah, it's the same for me. Or one strategy you might think about for improving that is something like this. So anyways, the point being this sort of balance between like a planned sort of project, like proactive approach to mentoring, but I think also having a mix of more reactive, just self-reflection is also good and fine and normal and usually still also engaging for the mentor, right? We're here because we want to help you work through whatever is going on.
That's right, and that is so well said, because sometimes graduate students experience very, if not infantilizing, then the power relations that they experience on a day-to-day basis are much different from the ones they experience with sympathetic graduate alumni mentors. And they're often what they'll often say is how they're overwhelmed by the level of support from the graduate alumni mentor, who is often more willing to mentor than they are to be menteed, if that makes sense. So that's really great. And I know, Joe, for example, during the first year of COVID, you were meeting with one of your mentees on a weekly basis. And so to Michelle's point, we have seen more regular, consistent contact, but spaced out post, that initial moment of crisis, especially for graduate students, of navigating both a Herculean task of completing a PhD while in a pandemic. So point very well taken. We're already at 12:52. For me, the panel has been the 52 minutes have sped by very quickly. I want to give everyone a chance to end by asking a last question, which I'll ask Neil to put onto the screen in just a moment, and then we'll have each of you come in turn as you did at the outset to come spotlight it on the screen and give your final remarks to this question. Question is, speaking from your various vantage points, what advice would you give to current graduate students as they think about mentorship? And to Laura's point earlier, graduate students are not just mentees, they're also mentors. So what advice would you give to current graduate students as they think about mentorship, both as a mentor and a mentee? I will come back at the end to wrap up. Please, let's begin in reverse order. So Michelle, can you give us, like 30, 40 seconds about what you would tell graduate students, and then we'll go in reverse order.
Thank you, James, and thanks for this panel. It's been wonderful to share information and give great advice to your students and to mentors of graduate students out there. I think my advice would be understand the relationships that you have gained throughout your undergraduate and your graduate careers. I like that idea of a mentoring map to understand the mentors that you need at different phases of your life and career, and take full advantage of those relationships to build your network and maintain your network with that strong communication.
I would just add that remember that mentoring is a reciprocal relationship. It's bidirectional. So if you think of an arrow, the arrow is going both ways. And I would remind mentors and mentees to always remember that you are both contributing to the relationship and benefiting from it, ideally.
So I think I said my piece also about this like reactive, like self-reflection approach. I guess the other thing I would say, okay, obviously sign up for this GradFutures, the mentoring program. Try it out, right? And keep track of what works well for you, what you really get out of the mentoring, right? Maybe when you then start mentoring, you think about what did you like about certain mentors and what maybe you didn't like. I think you should try it out and see if it works for you. But it's definitely going to be like an individual experience because each pairing is going to be different.
My recommendation on any mentee who's looking for a mentor is first and foremost choose a mentor who understands your area of expertise. If you're a chemie, if you're a biologist, etc., choose someone who got a PhD in at least an area that's contiguous to yours, so that he or she understands the challenges and the career opportunities that face you when you complete your PhD.
I want to advise mentees to make sure to stay open, communicative, and engaged. Do the little homework tasks that your mentor might give you, and you can get a lot out of it.
And I would say, echoing what was said earlier, set realistic expectations about what you want to get out of the relationship. Don't overreach. I've gotten some feedback where a student asked the mentor for a job, and then when the mentor wasn't in a position to offer a job to the student stopped all contact. So I think you have to have realistic expectations about what you want to achieve. You should be in control as the student. It's your professional development, not the mentor's professional development that we're talking about. And so you should be in control in terms of setting the agenda and maintain communication. And I don't mean just during the course of the relationship. I maintain, being almost 66 years old now, I still stay in touch with a number of the mentors that I met during the course of my career when I was just starting out, and they've still remained very helpful to me. And that's been, and I've been helpful to them, frankly. And it's talking about building a relationship, and it's been very, very rewarding.
James, you're muted.
That rapid fire nature of the final remarks, I really want to thank each and every one of you for what you've shared today. There were some questions we didn't get to. This is obviously a rich, full topic. We'll be following up with everyone who registered for this panel with more resources, as well as the recording. Really want to thank again, especially our graduate alumni mentors who are out there day in, day out, doing the work of connecting with our graduate students at Princeton. Really thankful also too for the ways that mentorship in the graduate student experience is opening up away from the dyad of the one-to-one relationship and more to a board of advisors or a group of mentors. I think we have to look into, by the way, Drew, you and I, what do you call a group of mentors? It's a murder of crows. What is a group of mentors? But that's what you need. You need a board of advisors.
I'll put my thinking cap on.
All right, Drew. If there's not one, we'll make it.
Maybe a firm of mentors.
Ah, very good. We have coined one. If it doesn't exist, let's put it out there into the universe. I also want to encourage everyone to stay tuned for the rest of the forum today, tomorrow, Friday, and then there is a bonus networking event on Saturday for attendees of the forum. You can go to an Affirm of Mentors is already on the ticker, so that means it's real. If it hits the ticker, again, thank you to our panel. Go to gradfutures.princeton.edu/forum. Check out the schedule for the rest of the week. Please feel free to connect with our panelists via LinkedIn and otherwise. I'm seeing some requests to connect already on LinkedIn from people who are viewing the stream. I hope this session has been helpful for you. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about how we manage our program. Graduate mentors, we are currently recruiting enough graduate mentors to meet the excess demand that we currently have for mentors at Princeton. So we currently have more graduate students who would like a mentor than we have graduate alums who can provide that mentorship. We need 20 to 30 graduate student alumni to step forward into that role, and then we'll reach our goal of matching 200 graduate students this calendar year. Thanks again to our panel. Stay tuned for our events this week, and many thanks for joining us at the 2022 GradFutures Forum.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Everyone.